Welcome to Northbound, Alaska, the Trucking Files, a podcast where we talk to haul road drivers, both past and present, to carry on the knowledge and experience of one of the toughest roads on Earth. On this episode, we sit down with Bret Barkhuff. Bret has 15 years of driving experience in Alaska and over 1.8 million miles on the haul road alone.
Sure. It's whatever you need.
Man, you got a good radio voice.
I dropped it down an octave for you.
Can you still hear it yourself, Aaron?
I can hear myself.
Okay.
That's the scary part.
It is. It's a little odd. I keep looking around for myself.
It's like wait for the spotlight. It's coming right through the window.
We're here with Bret Barkhuff.
Barkhuff.
Barkhuff?
Yeah.
Sorry, I
still say it wrong, too.
Oh, yeah, you've had that name for however many years. I just met Bret, and you know what? Our dads probably knew each other back in the day.
Yeah.
His father is the legendary Custer, right?
And I always wondered if we could call you Little Custer, but
Everybody else seems to. Every once in a while I get Custer Jr. over the radio, yep. I'll never live that up or down. I don't know which one it is.
So you grew up with your dad, trucking on this road.
Yep.
What's your earliest memory of going up there?
I've only gone up there once. It was the picture that you guys posted the other day. I only got up to go up there with him one time. I don't remember exactly how old I was, and I don't remember the trip very much, other than waking up in the sleeper, and he wasn't in the truck. And it's funny because you can see it in the picture that he was out there ripping off the tire. He had lost a tire, and the rest of the trip, that's the only thing I remember is, Dad, are we going to make it? We'll be okay, boy. We'll be okay.
So it sounds like you were sleeping a little bit here.
Of course, yeah. Everybody, every kid has gone to the sleeper.
You know, it's funny because it's some of the best sleep you'll get in a truck when you're a kid on that road.
So while you're in the bunk, yeah.
yeah, try sleeping now. I try sleeping with my dad now, and it's like this isn't working.
The truck's moving. I can do it if I trust the driver. I can do it if I trust the driver. I've done a couple weeks sleeper teaming up there with Norm Croson, and I slept really well. I don't think he ever did, but I know I did. I slept okay. I remember sleeping some snoozing.
Was he teaching you to drive, or
Yep.
why were you with Norm?
Yep. We were driving for Navstar. We were up there testing. That was my first real trucking on the haul road. I had driven truck and I had driven the haul road, but I had never driven truck on the haul road.
Oh, that's when you guys were testing those motors?
Yep.
I remember that one day he was just going back and forth up the shelf.
Back and forth. Yeah, then they stopped in Coldfoot and they set up the shop there, and that's what I did. I drove that cat truck back and forth. It's the bottom of the, they just wanted miles, cold weather miles. You know, it was quite the experience, but yeah, that's where I first.
Probably got boring, huh?
It was very boring. I even got a little uppy once and took it south of Coldfoot and went down to the bottom of the Koyukuk, come back up the Koyukuk, messed up on the Koyukuk, and then they told me, back and forth to the shelf. Doggone it. We said that's a flat land. We don't want you showing off. We don't want anything else but miles on in the cold weather.
I remember Norm. I was going up there the one day. He's like, how fast you going up there? And I can't remember what he said. He's like, man, that's pretty good. And I was like, yeah, this truck seems to run okay, but it didn't seem like those trucks had much power.
Well, the one I was in did. The cat truck, not so much when we were up in Coldfoot, but I ended up in the Kenworth, the comparison truck. And that had, God, I don't remember what year it was. It had to have been, it was brand new. I mean, it was brand bloody new. And it was the most beautiful truck I think I've ever been in to that point. I'd been a dirt hauler my whole life at that point. And it had 550 or 600 cat and only 80,000 pounds behind it. And boy, away we went. Or no, it was a Cummins. It was a Cummins, and that's the one I drove. But those Max Forces, it never really panned out for them. But we did a lot of the cold weather testing.
Yeah, that's crazy. Who all was doing that? Was it just you and Norm? Was there a bunch of you guys?
No, there was a bunch of them. Uncle Ron was supposed to, and he never really, I don't know exactly what happened, but Uncle Ron, he didn't really start up. I think he did some runs south, but yeah, there was Uncle Ron, me, Norm, Richard, I can't remember his name. Richard, Mike, There was a couple of guys, and then then they brought up a couple guys with them too, that they lasted for a little while before they went ahead and we either went south or went home.
Wow, yeah, I forgot about that. It's amazing all the different cold weather testing that's gone on over the years up there for.
What years would that have been when you guys were doing that?
2010, 2009, somewhere
Okay.
in there, maybe 8. It might have been 2008, 9, somewhere in there.
That sounds about right because I think I was in my green truck,
You definitely, yeah, you
and
were.
I think it was still stock. So
Yeah, it's still stuff. Before you put the 800 in it.
yeah,
That's the rumor.
Yeah, that was my very first experience up the haul road in a truck, and I had piloted car before and ran up there on it, but it had been years since I had done that, and I knew I was green, but I thought I could remember the road. It had been 4 or 5 years since I'd been up there, and I thought I could remember the road, and I didn't. And then being in a truck versus a pickup is two completely different worlds, you know. And then you got a little weight behind you, and it was eye-opening. But there I went, away I gone.
Do you remember much from your childhood? I mean, your dad, I'm sure he was always talking about that, or
About the road?
yeah, just about the road and trucks and.
The road was the 5th member of my family. I grew up with it as the 5th member of my family and a couple cousins because I had uncles that were up there. You know, the road was always something. It was always, you know, and Dad, just like today, didn't know anybody but truck drivers. All his friends were truck drivers. It all kind of rotated around it, no matter what. We lived in a neighborhood of truck drivers. You know, Lakeview Terrace is where I grew up. And back in the 80s, it was just the housing shortage. You know, we were in a little trailer park, but they were nice trailers, and they were people just moved in, and they were all doggone truck drivers and truck drivers' kids, and you went to school with them. You waited at the bus stop with them.
Wow, whole neighborhood.
Yep.
I'm sure there was a bunch of trucks parked in front of all these trailer
Every now
houses
and again,
too.
yeah, every now and again.
Yeah, bring the truck home for the night or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you were pilot car driving before you got in the big truck.
Well, I had been.
We're at a shop here
Oh, yeah,
with
of course.
this podcast, so
That's what I love about it.
somebody's over there letting off some steam. But
I had driven truck, and I had run equipment, and I did that all throughout the summers. I fought for a long time not to be a truck driver. I was having fun working all summer.
yeah, sounds like me. I wanted to run equipment.
I was living Peter Pan life. You know, I was working all summer and either doing something in the winter to keep a little bit of coming in, or if I couldn't find anything, unemployment was there, and I'd run equipment all summer and haul dirt.
Doing construction jobs around Fairbanks.
I worked mostly gravel pits.
Okay.
Well, one gravel pit, and I still talk to the old boy today. Talked to him about 3 days ago, actually, and I was doing fine. I was a happy 20-something-year-old kid making more money than I'd ever made in my life, and just happy not to be a truck driver. You know, I'd run equipment in the summer. I'd run trucks in the summer. I did a lot of round and round in a big old dump truck, 30-ton truck there in the gravel pit, emptying out the hoppers. But yeah, I fought like the dickens not to be an actual over the road, long haul truck driver.
Were you ever bailing any gravel or anything like that?
No,
or
I never run the Skagit.
Okay.
My brother did, but I never run the Skagit. I greased that son of a gun a lot, but I never ran it. Tacky lube.
Yeah.
If you know anything about them dang thing, tacky lube and right open ear grease, just ugh.
Wow.
It's worse than fifth wheel grease.
That's weird. I feel like I'm talking to my brother here. It's,
Well, then I'm going to step out and you go.
oh man, yeah. My brother used to always say, "I'm not going to drive truck," and he was always running equipment, plowing snow, and
You know, it was not that I necessarily didn't. I wasn't scared of it. I just didn't. I had better things to do, and I just didn't want to give up my life to it. You know, because that's what you do. It ends up. You know, I still to this day swear to God, it's not my lifestyle.
It's almost like
it's
a
my
curse.
job. It is.
You know, once you get it in the blood, it's.
I've got a love-hate relationship with it. You know, I love to love it, or I love to hate it, and I hate to love it, or whatever. You know, but I still can't find anything better to do.
So you probably have those days when you get up and you're like, well, I got to take a load to Prudhoe, and you kind of get going and you're moseying along, and then Next thing you know, you're on the haul road, the Dalton, and you're like, okay, what's going to happen today?
Well, you just turn your book on and turn your music on and just go.
Yeah.
You can't get it done without leaving.
Yeah. So what was the first year you actually were driving truck up there? Do you remember?
Like my first paying real BL in hand, load to deliver.
This is my first load. I'm going up there. Were you following anybody, or was it just like, here you go?
No, Norm did a real good job of training me, and I don't think it was once that job ended, I think I went back to the gravel pit that summer, and then the following winter, I went and applied everywhere, and Igor Trucking picked me up. And they knew me because of my father's name. They knew what I had been doing, and they pretty much just, go that way. Here's the truck, just giddy up, which was great in a way, but it also was nerve-wracking. And and I pulled a trip or two by myself before anybody that also worked there knew that I even worked there. And then I was pulling into Slope Mountain Camp one day, and this is a pivotal moment of my life. Pulling into Slope Mountain Camp, and a southbound white Kenworth hollers out, "Who's that rogie truck turning into Slope Mountain Camp?" I was like, well, my name is Bret. This is Kelly. This is Kelly. I just happened to recognize that truck, and I hadn't seen it on the road, and I knew there was a driver in it. And ever since, then I followed Kelly around like a puppy with a.
Now which Kelly are you talking about here?
Kelly Woodward.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I'm sure people have heard that name before.
I'm positive they have. If they haven't, they know his laugh.
Oh man.
Yeah, and then and he's a bit younger than me even, and but had been out there, and that's a couple trips all by myself in the middle of the night taught me that I still don't know exactly what I think I know. And even he was a young guy himself.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm following you. And we ran together a bunch through there, and shit, darn near been an inseparable sense.
Yeah. So what were you hauling when you first started going up there?
Sandbags. Big old 2,000 ton or two-ton bags of sand or whatever they are, 1 ton each or whatever. Man, it was heavy. It was heavy, and that poor old wore-out dirt truck with summer tires on it all winter. She was a learning experience.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you were chaining up quite a bit then, huh?
Absolutely. Just darn near. I don't think that first winter I ever made it up the knob without just throwing it. It got to a point where I just put on a set. It didn't matter what it was. Kelly'd be at the top waiting for me, giggling.
He'd be giggling into the radio.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It got to be 2 or 3 times, about 2 or 3 trips that as soon as I got to the first hard pull, done. Just zzz. Either I was even close enough to where I'd go ahead and just back off, because I hadn't made it anywhere up the hill. As soon as the nose pointed, the truck spun, and it was done. I had old rock tires still all winter.
Yeah, isn't it amazing what good tires will do for you?
It's ridiculous, and people don't even understand that anymore
well,
because we're so used to having good tires.
Yeah.
So you'd say those rock tires would make a pretty good driver out of you.
Well, they'll experience you real quick.
Yeah.
I can throw a set of chains real quick on the side of a hill.
Yeah.
And because of those days, because I spun the hell out everywhere.
And did you have lockers in that truck?
Oh,
you
yeah.
were running? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So you had everything pretty much.
Oh yeah, everything was set, but it was just tires.
Yeah.
Tire and experience.
Yeah.
I probably had 300 miles on the doggone highway.
Yeah. Did you ever have a nice 5-mile experience coming back, or anything on 2.5 or 2? Or?
Oh well, in that truck, I spun my way all the way up 1 mile one day. It was probably it was before I met Kelly probably. Spun all the way up 1 mile. And I looked over there, and I knew 2.5 was coming, and I said, it's got to be better over there.
Oh,
it's got to be better, right? I mean, what is it, half a mile? It's got to be better over there. And I made it up 2 mile, and I made it up just about to the curve at 2.5 mile. And I wasn't giving up either. I knew I had messed up. I knew I'd messed up from the get-go, and I spun my way all the way up there. By the time the truck stopped, and it did not go backwards.
wow.
I could throw my hat at the top of the hill.
Oh, man.
I was almost there, and man alive, did I mark that bugger out. I bet you the next 9 people didn't make it.
And what year was that?
It would have been 2010.
Okay, 2010 fall time?
11, it was winter.
Okay, winter time.
It was winter, yeah, 2010.
I'm sure some guys listening that were driving up there around that time
probably
had some fun.
I remember getting a cold foot and stepping in there, and Norm happened to be in there. Oh, and I told him about it, and he just looks at me. He goes, well, sometimes you got to try it. Yeah. And I'm sure he's shaking his head right now, and he was then too. And I was still young enough to where I didn't notice that he was shaking his head, but he's looking at everybody else going, oh my. 5 Mile, I never really had too much trouble with 5 Mile. I mean, you're going to make it down the bugger one way or the other.
Yeah. How about coming back?
Coming back, I just spent here, I don't know, about 4 years ago. About 4 years ago, I think I spent at least 18 hours, about 19 hours. I think it was New Year's or it was Christmas. It was one of the two. In the ditch, right there at the beginning of the S curves on my way up. In the ditch, just sitting, just hanging out because nobody was coming out for me. Wow. The state was out there. I had actually made the hill. I had a set of chains on, and guy in front of me and him, it was snowing. I had slept at Baker's that night. It was one of them split sleeper berths, and I could only come all the way back, and I made it to Baker's, and I woke up, and it was just snowing. Just out of the blue, woke up with 4 inches of snow on my hood and went, well, shoot. You drop out of Baker's and you get going. I didn't even make it up the next hill, up to get down to Mackey. I didn't even make it up there. I backed down and put a set of chains on in there. I wore the chains, wore them all the way. And Tony with Carlisle there, me and him hooked up together, and we were headed home. We spent, we spent about an hour at the roller coaster waiting on somebody to come through because they had spun out coming up. They got going, and me and Tony just stuck together. And he had a backhaul on, and I had an empty tanker, I'm pretty sure. But we're going up 5 Mile, and he spins out. And when you spin out there at 5 Mile, right where everybody does, everybody knows right where you're going. And it was snowing deep, and it was heavy, it was wet, it was half rain. And
so it's like 30 degrees.
It was warm, And you get up to the top of 5 Mile in your lane, you spin out, you end up in the northbound ditch. And so I just stopped. It's the little bench right before the S curves. It's not much of a bench, about this much of a bench. And I went ahead and put on my other set, but I got an empty tanker. I couldn't get that bugger going at all whatsoever. I'm down there, and I'm just about to start digging holes. And I stopped. I was like, all right. Backed up a little bit, and I was going to back down to where the big bench is to where I could get a run at it. And I couldn't. All of a sudden, the state comes out, and they're leaving fluff on the road because it's supposed to start raining. And it's any moment it's supposed to start raining, and it's 35 degrees, 40 degrees, and they want that snow fluff to soak up the rain. And anybody coming down, and all of a sudden, nobody was coming. Everybody must have known one way or the other, I'm not leaving wherever I'm at. And so I couldn't get going, and so they hook up to me. But with all that fluff, they couldn't get me going. I couldn't get me going. Then the trailer dragged over and grabbed the ditch and took me all the way over into the ditch too.
Oh man!
And
that was a northbound ditch.
Yeah, it was northbound ditch.
Yeah.
And so there I'm sitting there now, and now I'm out of the way.
Man!
They've already pulled on me once, and now I'm out of the way. I'm not blocking the road. They say, you got enough fuel? I'm like, yeah, I got fuel. You got food? Yeah, I'll be okay. I can't remember if it was New Year's or Christmas. I can't, but nobody was going out. And if there was three people out there. Then their one way gets stuck, and he can't make it up the hill. So they blade the hill, and it still won't touch me because I'm out of the way. Yeah. So I sat there for about 18 hours on 5 Mile. It was just half in the ditch and half out, being put in the ditch. I didn't even go in the ditch. I got put in the ditch.
Yeah.
Lessons learned. It's always a day. So
how'd you get out of that situation?
Send word. Tony actually made it up the hill.
Okay.
I said, well, send word to Alaska West. Tell Tommy I need the tow truck. Next day he comes bebopping along.
I bet he had a good smile on his face, huh?
About 10 minutes and I was up the road.
Yeah. Good old Tommy.
Yep. 10 minutes. He pulled the trailer out, pulled me out, and then I still couldn't get going. He actually towed me up the hill. I got 2 sets on. Empty tankers are about worthless for that,
Yeah.
About 10 minutes and off we went.
Man.
Yep.
That's a fun night.
It was a night. Well, there wasn't nobody to bother me. I slept pretty well. I wasn't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I was going anywhere when there was no trucks and jakes blowing by me all night.
Yeah.
I've never had to sleep on hill. I've slept on the pass like that, but I have a hard time sleeping when you're not level.
Just what are you going to do? That's what I've always said. What am I going to do? If it goes, it goes. I'm not going to sleep in the seat. And if it goes, I'm along for the ride. I might as well be asleep for it. I've slept on the pass a lot. Running at night, you get caught by an avalanche, you get caught by problems. I've slept on that doggone pass a lot.
Yeah, I think I've done it twice this last year.
Oh yeah. I haven't done it this year.
Yeah,
it's actually been pretty good this year. But I remember one year there wasn't a trip I pulled 3 trips that week. There wasn't a direction I went that I didn't get stuck for at least 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
On the way north, and then you get up north and you get coming back, it's doggone avalanche again. Thankfully, I think I was stuck on either the top or the bottom, one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I've slept at the waterfall plenty. I know I'm safe.
What's your dad think of you driving truck? Was he for that, or did he really care?
I don't think he really cared as long as the money was flowing for me. He's like, go do your thing, boy. I think he was nervous, of course. And I think he was more nervous probably than he'll ever admit.
Yeah.
It's a different thing out there. And now that I have kids, I can think about them in another 10, 15 years trying to go drive truck, and what would I think? I don't even want them riding their bike through the neighborhood like I used to, let alone going up there and with 10,000 gallons of methanol.
Yeah, that's weird. Thinking about your dad being nervous. He broke down and rode home with me one day there. That was kind of fun. I think he was kind of nervous sitting over there.
Truck drivers make the worst passengers.
And I might have been enjoying that a little too
much. Probably.
Were you smiling a lot or what?
I was trying not to smile. I was trying to hold it in.
Did you teach him anything?
I don't know.
Custer, this is how I do it.
Well, I was probably saying, this is how you taught me to do it.
And I found out this way was wrong.
I'm still waiting for him to come back and do his ride-along with me. He promised probably about 2000. He said he'd come back in 20 years and ride with me. So
telling you, get him a truck ready. He's bored.
I'll just send him a plane ticket.
Pretty sure he's still got his CDL. I'm pretty sure. I think he said he let his hazmat drop. But
he can sit in the passenger seat. I'll just let him ride along.
There you go. Absolutely. He'd probably do it with you before he'd do it with me.
There is a nice grab handle in there for him if he does decide to do that. So.
Yeah. They do got those handles these days.
It's fun to ride along with people like that because you start hearing stories you wouldn't have normally heard before. I think about riding with Dad there a few different times and him just talking about different things I'd never even heard of before. But it's weird to have that kind of time with somebody.
It's the best way to learn. There's things that Norm taught me while I was in those 2 weeks of just jumping back and forth in and out, and him teaching me just by sitting there and watching him, or just by sitting there BSing with him about this is where I shift and this is why I do it and this and that. You can't teach by the radio. Yeah. And everybody does it now, and I can't stand it. I can't teach you how to drive this road. And there's a certain way you drive the road rather than driving the truck. You drive the road more than you drive the truck. I don't know if that makes sense, but it might to you.
Oh yeah.
There's places and reasons I shift early. Then I could have made it halfway up the hill in this gear, but I shifted here because it's a lot less steep. Yeah. And I've got 117,000. I'm 117,000 pounds with a bulker on. I don't want to shift on the steep part of the doggone hill. I want to shift down here and just coast up the doggone thing.
Yeah. I mean, like your dad, Ron Lawrence, and even Steve Wilford just taught having them same conversations. Mm-hmm. And they're, especially them guys with them ISO tanks, man, you could learn how to run with them things and not make it slosh at all.
You drive an ISO tank and drive anything.
Yeah.
Now we got those 5-axle chemical tanks too. Those are fun.
those probably hit pretty hard.
The older ones, they're spring ride. They'll knock you back into the sleeper. You miss a gear or you mess up a little bit, that bugger it'll knock your head over. The newer ones that are air ride, the air ride absorbs the knock a little bit. But those are you drive a slosh tank, you learn how to skip gears quick.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't do you shift 2 or 3 times on the hill, that's about it.
Yeah, no, it's 2 shifts everywhere. I don't think I shift anymore if I got one of those buggers on any more than once, maybe third, but it's if I shift a third time, it's probably a panic shift.
Yeah, and it's funny because every time you shift, it sloshes a little bit more, no matter how smooth you are. So that's I tell guys, when you're going up to hilltop, you know what your pulling gear is. That's not your pulling gear, but usually your gear lower. So you know what your pulling gear is when you're leaving. If you're like with you, you're pulling the same loads all the time, so you know. But it's when you know where your pulling gear is at, you know what gear to aim for.
I know I'm going to pull it in third over. I'm going to get there as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Every time you shift, you give yourself a chance to mess up.
Yeah.
So why shift 6 times when I can do it 3 times?
Yeah.
And it's easier on the slosh.
For people that don't understand, you guys are talking about skipping gears when you're shifting, right?
Yep.
So, like, let's say you're going for Mackie, right? What are you going to do? You're going to run through the bottom, and then you're going to drop 2 gears, or you drop a gear and a half, or?
I'm going to run like the Dickens for the bottom, and then I'm going to start out, and I'm probably in 8th direct. I'm going to come over to 6th, and if I think I'm going to pull it in 4th, if I've got an ISO, I'll pull it in 4th. I'll go right from 6th to 4th and go right up the hill.
So you're shifting twice.
Shifting twice. Yeah.
Instead of 4 times.
Yep. If I've got a big tank on, and I know, and a 5-axle, and I know I'm going to end up in 3rd over, I'll go from 8th. Maybe I'll hit 7th, and then 5th, and then 3rd.
So why aren't you just shifting gear by gear by gear? Why are you skipping gears for new people out there?
I think it's easier. I think it's easier on the truck because that every time you shift, you give yourself a chance to mess up.
Yeah.
Every time, and I don't care how good you are, we've all missed gears.
Yep.
We've all missed gears. I just watched Chuck's episode. We've all done it. I don't care who you are, where you are. You've grinded one. You've knocked one over.
And
you've
so,
done something. So,
are you getting the RPMs all the way up to the governor when you're doing this, or how?
Drop them nice and low. You got to match your speed with your RPM. So if you drop them down to, depending on what motor you got. In a Detroit, I'll drop it down to 14 if I'm going to skip 2, or sometimes I'll skip 3.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've gone right from 8th to 5th. Ice cut. You run at the ice cut. You go 8th to 5th, or I've gone from 8th to 4th.
Yeah. Wow.
Just one. Whoop.
Yeah, it just depends. And some guys don't know that. They come up here and they start dropping a gear, and then they drop another one before you know it. It's too late.
They're splitting gears all the way up. They got 18 gears, and they're coming down 16 of them.
Yeah.
And you can't keep up. The hills are too steep to keep up.
Right. What are you gaining? You're not gaining anything. If you hit 6th gear, you got a truck length before you're jumping over into the next one, or if you're splitting them.
Yeah.
The splitting's great on the way up. On the way down, I'm full gears all the way, and if I know I'm going to end up in 3rd over, I'm going to get the 3rd over as fast as possible.
Yeah. And if you mess up a gear, you gotta go and drop again, right?
Yep.
So. But usually when you shift early, like a lot of times I'll pull it right down to 1100.
Sure.
And then just drop 2 gears and go right in, and doing it that way, if you screw up, you have more of a chance to shock your driveline or your rear ends or your transmission. But if you're cutting your shifting in half, I feel like your drivetrain lasts a lot longer too.
I think so. That's 5 of one, half dozen of another, I suppose. But driving slosh tanks, that's the only way to do it. Especially with new guys in Alaska West, we'll send them up there. It's his first ISO or whatever, and he's seasick by the time he hits hilltop with the shaking. And I tell him, well, it's okay. You're just starting off at traffic lights and stuff. You'll be fine once we get going and we can stay going. And then start learning how to, because just like with your water bottle, every time you shift, there's a little pause, and that gives it a chance to slosh back. And then you shift, and now it shoves forward. And you do that 2 or 3 times, and now that shit's just moving.
Yeah.
So you would say an ISO is worse than a tanker, a normal tanker, as far as
sloshing goes. Yeah, there's no sloshing.
Okay. I don't have experience pulling tankers or ISO, so yeah.
Yeah, no, a regular tanker, you don't have any.
It's pretty much domed out, except for one compartment. But the ISO, there's so much room for it to move. So when there's room for it to move, you're going to figure that out.
That stuff will hit the back of the wall, and you'll know it real quick. Especially if you're spinning or you're a little bit oofy about something, and that stuff hits the back of the wall. It'll drag you right down. It'll knock you. It'll spin you right out. I've also had it though, slosh forward, and knock me out of it too.
Yeah.
Up the hill I go, and now it doesn't happen often, but there's a time or two
But you still got to ease into it, so you're not.
Well, you smash it down on the throttle just because you made forward progress, then you're in the same boat again 2 seconds later. That stuff's going to hit the back of the tank there and knock you right down.
And it's even the same way in the corners and stuff with those. I mean, you're just easing into the corners. You're just being Yeah, it really makes a driver out of you.
The front and back isn't what gets you. It's when it starts going side to side around a corner.
Yeah.
That stuff climbs the wall of that, and your center of gravity now changes, and you still haven't come out of that corner. You're going. You might not have any chance or any choice, and you're on your side before you even before you even felt it crawl. You're on your lid, you know.
Yeah, and it's if you can pull it through the corner, even if it is moving, if you can hold it in the back, you can corner a lot better. But if you're just say you're jaking down in like 24, 25 over there, and it's all that stuff's up against the front and out to the side, man, it'll tip you right over.
It'll teach you it'll teach you exactly what you think you know.
Yeah. It will humble you in a hurry.
Well,
Have you ever laid one over on its side or had any close call? Okay.
I have. I've laid one over one time.
Where did that happen at?
Very top of Dan Creek.
Okay.
Very top. It was about this time of year. The sun was shining, and Dan Creek was just glass. Just glass. Two guys coming south. We're trying to be nice. You know, I was already pulling the second part of Dan Creek there, and I had a guy right behind me, and they were slowing down just to be nice, and the guy swung a trailer, and
Oh man.
and it wasn't fast by any means, and wasn't even his fault. He didn't notice the trailer. I got on there. I said, your trailer, and I thought I could thread the needle. I thought I had enough space, and I didn't, and I caught my tire and I laid it over so slow that I didn't even fall out of the seat. I just had my hands on the steering wheel. All of a sudden, the next thing I know, I was standing on the passenger door. Going, damn it! That just actually happened.
Oh, man.
So you just killed the motor real quick, or?
Yeah, I reached up there. I think the motor might have already killed itself. But yeah, I reached up there. I don't remember exactly what I did, but yeah, that was the green truck. That was the Pete that I was leasing.
Okay. And so you didn't get hurt from that?
Nope, not a thing. I put 2 crinkles in the sleeper, and I dented the fuel tank, and we flopped her back over the next day, and I think we should have let it sit there for a day or for a minute or two before old boy kicked the key right to it. But boy,
Oh no.
he was pretty upset and wanted to get going. He turned that bugger right over as she fired up, and I drove her home.
Oh man, did you lose the motor?
No.
Oh
I
wow.
lose nothing out of it. No, she went right over. Like I said, once she flopped, I figured we'd let her sit there for a second. Boy, he reached open and kicked over the motor, and away we went.
Oh man.
So that situation was pretty much unavoidable in a way because it happened so quickly, right?
I should have ate the trailer.
Really?
I should have ate the trailer.
And how fast do you think you guys were going at that point?
15, maybe 20. Okay. Maybe 20. I should have. I had a load of fuel on. I should have protected that doggone load of fuel, and my side of the road, and there would have been with his paint and my bumper, there would have been a reason I went in the ditch. Since I went in the ditch without hitting anything, it was my fault.
Yep.
Single vehicle. You know, not to say that he was doing anything wrong, and not to say that I wanted to hit his trailer. But I would have hit his trailer over going in the ditch for the what could have been, and nothing was spilled, nothing bad happened.
Yeah.
The load was saved, nothing leaked, but for what could have been, that could have been a bad deal.
Yeah.
All because I thought I could have, and it all happens so quick.
Yeah.
And I've told 100 people, and I know you always have to. You know, paint, fur, or blood is the only things you go in the ditch for. You know, you swerve for children. That's it. You eat the trailer. You always eat the trailer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's your fault.
Well, it could be $1 million spill or $25,000 hood. You know,
Yeah.
so it's like it's a lot easier to fix that hood cost-wise and all that. So
But it's hard to say what somebody's going to do unless they're in that situation.
100%. I've said it a million times that I would have ate the trailer, and the moment I got I rolled the driver's window down and crawled out, I knew, shit, I should have ate the trailer, and I didn't, I thought there was enough road left, and it was about this time of year, and there wasn't enough road. It happened. It snagged me, and it just sucked me right over, and away I went. Yeah. Thank God it was not at speed. It was very slow. It was very soft, and there was still a heap load of snow in that ditch. So if it was summertime, it'd have been a whole different story.
Yeah.
I'd have probably been on my lid or whatnot. That's people don't realize how deep some of those ditches are when they run all winter, and then all of a sudden that snow's gone, and oh, wow.
yeah.
Shoot, that's not a bush. That's the top of a tree.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You roll one of them over too. That's I've seen guys get killed from that.
Oh yeah.
It's whiplash.
Well, the tanker, it's not like a box van. There's nothing that's going to stop you on your side. That tanker, and then that's, there's slosh. That stuff's going to get going, and it's, when your stacks and your sleeper are the only thing that are taller than the tanker, that's not enough to stop that momentum.
Yeah.
You're going to roll 2 or 3 times, at least.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah, that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
I've been pretty lucky.
Yeah. Good buddy of mine rolled one there at 16 Mile, rolled an LVT tanker, and same deal, but it was a very short ditch even. But it took him enough, and he went 1.5 over.
What's an LVT tanker for people that don't know?
Mineral oil.
Okay.
Mineral oil. It wasn't hazardous. It's mineral oil. They use it in the drilling. They mix the mud with it, and I don't know. Beyond that, I don't know what they do with it. I just take it to them.
Because I noticed we talk about a lot of things that we know what we're talking about, or you guys know, but some people that are interested in this, they don't know.
Sure.
And so it's always kind of cool to be like, well, what's that, or what's this, So
I think that mineral oil is almost fish oil or something like that. It seemed like it was something natural like that.
It's not hazmat.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what they do with it. I know they mix it with the mud, and then they push it down the hole somewhere.
Yeah. That was all I could haul there in an ISO at first because it wasn't hazmat. So when I was in my early 20s, that's all I was allowed to haul.
Yeah.
So. You ever haul any big loads, and low boys and stuff like that?
Never been my thing.
Yeah.
Never been my thing. I mean, they're doing it for the glory there.
Yeah.
I always say I'm here for the paycheck and the women. Yeah. You guys can keep the glory. I've been 15, 16 wide. I've been 124, 130,000 pounds, but I've never hauled those big old mods or, they asked me to get into a tri-drive once, and I was, it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
Like, well, you seem like you have the patience and temperance for it. It's like, yeah, it's because you see me in the yard and you're my boss. I haven't even left yet.
It's funny, though. You got to work as a team when you start getting them big loads like that. And it's kind of, as a truck driver, I like to be by myself.
That's another thing. Yeah, I'm working on my schedule here. I sleep when I want to sleep. Not when you want to sleep. And I did that as pilot cars too. We worked as some of them loads were 20, 30, 25 wide. You got 3 pilot cars up front, 1 in back, and weakest link, first person that wants to go to bed, the whole shindig shows over and off we go. Whether you got to sleep or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were pilot car driving, were you the lead pilot or were you the rear pilot all over?
Everywhere, yeah, all over.
So were you trying to stay, how far were you trying to stay in front of that load? Was it just depending on
on the load, depending on the driver, how far he wanted, and depending on the section of the road.
Okay.
I met a couple loads of long pipe down there at the bottom of Sand Hill here the other day, and got on there, and I was like, guys, there's absolutely no reason. I just met your pilot car. There's no reason that we just met down here. Well, we're just long pipes, no big deal. Yeah, but it is.
Yeah.
Before you even should have come off those stair steps behind you, the hills that comes before you hit the straightaway, before you drop down into no name there, he should have been on top, just waiting. I'd have much rather waited up there, or you waited over here.
Yeah.
For me to go scooting on by, and this could have all been, and there was an 18 wide right behind him too, so it was all goofy.
Oh man!
So they're stacked on top of each other.
Yeah, there's two loads of long pipe, and then an 18 wide right behind, and it all worked out.
Yeah.
But there was still no reason for it. When you got pilot cars, for crying out loud, get them out there.
Yeah, get them out there to a safe spot where you can see both directions,
Sure.
right? That way you're not running. Because sometimes I've seen them where they've been right around a corner, and it's like,
you're
trying to stop, 90,000 or 112, 13 or whatever these tankers are pulling,
Right,
And that's a lot of weight to stop just like that,
Sure.
So.
Takes a football field.
Oh, yeah. So, anyways. So, yeah, just, I guess, having the right mindset and being in the right area there, like, for stopping these trucks, I mean, that's very important, these pickup pilot cars,
Sure.
Sure.
If it's needed,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of reason.
But it's such a unique road, though, and it's like, if you don't know it, you're trying to figure that out, And,
We're all trying to figure it out together,
Yeah.
Well, there's certain spots, there's certain places, there's certain, and back when I was pilot car and we were all working together enough too, where we could bounce back and forth. We knew that there was a section and the road was a little bit different. It wasn't as wide as it is now. Not that I've been out there for forever, ever, but I've seen 25 mile change 3 times in the 15 years I've been out there. But there's just certain sections where we go ahead and if you're 20-some wide, it's yours. It's yours as long as we used to, get to the top of Dan Creek or top of Ice Cut and pilot all the way out to Dan Creek. Everybody stay here because this is the first straightaway, and it's the doggone road's thin, and nobody coming south would have a problem with that. But my load wouldn't leave until I had complete control of the road. I know nobody's coming. The next guy stopped here, and they just don't do that much anymore.
Yeah.
That whole section, from there to Happy Valley, it could be yours if you're 25 wide, and I won't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot of learning going on there. There's been a shift of new people, and
oh yeah, of course.
I mean, even with
truck drivers and pilot cars and every single
Yeah.
trade, it seems like the old guard is retiring and moving on, and you got a lot of new people coming in here, and maybe they just haven't been shown the right ways.
They're being trained by new people.
Yeah.
New people are teaching new people how to be new people, and which is fine. And there's a million ways to do it. There's just as long as nobody gets hurt.
Yeah.
But there's some close calls. I've had a couple close calls out there this last year over some silly shit.
Yeah.
I'm at an 18 wide right before the S curves on 5 Mile coming home here 2 months ago.
oh wow,
pilot car load. Wow. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Before that first pilot car should have ever dropped off. The first one should have been over on top of 8 Mile. The second one should have been at 6 Mile, and then hey, it's clear. Let the load drop. Boy, they were just all together. We had some words. There's some words of wisdom.
Yeah.
Some
I think some of those guys, they get them big loads like that, and that one was probably a lighter one.
It
Is
was
what
light.
I'm
It was
guessing.
a pipe rack.
They're used to being heavier. I mean, the drivers used to being heavier, and the pilot cars are struggling to keep ahead of him.
Well, just because you're light doesn't mean you need to go fast.
Exactly.
Especially if you're pushing on your pilot cars.
Yeah.
And as pilot cars, why are you letting them push you?
Yeah.
You're the pilot. He can't move without you. There's a reason they call you the pilot.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go any faster than the slowest link.
It's scary when you start pushing pilot cars like that because they're probably maxed out on their abilities for driving.
You ever driven a pickup up there?
I piloted one load, and that scared me to death.
It's different, isn't it? It's different. Driving a pilot car up there, driving a pickup up there is a lot different than being in a truck. It's, you're coming around that car, and I don't care how big your F-350 is, you're not the biggest thing out there anymore.
Well, that was weird going from driving to jumping in a pilot car pickup. And the guy I was with, man, he was really easy and really patient. I can't imagine being with somebody that's pushing.
And that's the way it needs to be. That driver of that load needs to be a patient individual. You can't just go to Prudhoe. I don't care how light you are. If you're 18 wide, you are a lane and a half. You're a lane and a half no matter where you go. The thinnest part of the road, you're lane and 3/4.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to lay back, let low, and realize you're not the only thing out there, and you're the piloted load.
Yeah.
You're the obstruction. Technically, I don't have to stop for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to if it's easier, but you have to be prepared to stop. Your pilot doesn't even have to necessarily have communications with me. They have to have communications with you to stop you.
Yep.
And just because we're on that radio together it's courtesy, or there's I understand, or if I'm in the good place. Anytime I've hauled anything, and I've never been 18 wide, but it's been 16. I've got no problems being the one that stops. I'm in no hurry. This load's paying me one way or the other. I'm going to get to Prudhoe.
Yeah.
It's not getting any farther.
Yeah.
Yeah, just taking your time and getting the load there safely. That
Absolutely.
should be the priority.
That's much should be.
And some guys are like, I just need to get 3 loads in this week. It's like, how about just get that first load in and then get back to town?
There's plenty of time for 3.
Yeah.
There's always time for 2 and a reset.
Yeah.
Doing a reset and then do another one. That's 3, and you took a nice day off between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay to stop and smell the roses or help somebody along the way too,
Sure.
or chit chat, Enjoy.
Well, you don't have to be driving or on duty the whole time.
Yeah.
Maybe you're in sleeper. Maybe you went off duty to eat a sandwich.
Yeah.
Something. You don't have to be. ELDs aren't that bad up here. I know they can be a pain in the butt down there in the real world, and I'm sure they can. I've never driven down there, so I can't say. But up here, they're the best thing that ever happened. They have never changed the way I drive. They have certainly changed the way I sleep.
Yeah.
You know, I wake up in 5 hours and look out, and instead of jumping in the driver's seat, putting my boots on and wiping gunk out of my eyes for the next 3 hours drinking coffee, I look at well, I can't even go. Might as well go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And away I go. I got no problem sleeping as much as I can. And if you can't sleep 8 hours, you didn't work hard enough.
So, can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
Have you ever had any nightmares sleeping up there in the sleeper?
I have had a few. The worst nightmare, I just wanted a couple hours. Just needed to lay down. And I was on top of 117. And I don't think I ever fully fell asleep. Something went into me, but I was asleep enough to where I couldn't get up and check if I pulled my brakes or not.
Oh, man.
And so the whole time I'm in that doggone sleeper, I'm dreaming of this truck just rolling down 117, you know, down into the next dip. And I even remember feeling myself fighting to get up to do it, but something was pushing down. I mean, I couldn't get out of the
You're
sleeper.
just so tired, probably. Yeah.
I could not get out of the sleeper to save my. And of course, I woke up. I felt like I hadn't slept a doggone wink. Reach over there and pushed them in just because I knew damn well I pushed the damn things in.
Yeah.
The whole time I was back there, 2 or 3 hours, though, I did not. Oh, it was horrible. Yeah, that's some of the worst, though. You know, when you and it only happens when I only want a little nap.
Yeah.
It never happens when I'm down to just go to sleep.
Yeah.
Just want a little nap, and all of a sudden, you either that or you're dreaming about trucking. You ever do that? You dream about trucking and get up and you feel like you haven't. Damn, I've been trucking the whole time. I got it.
Yeah, the first time I was, team driving with Aaron down in the States, and we were there in La Grande, Oregon, and we stopped at the scale that was closed, and it's kind of at a slant, you know, so we're kind of parked, not that bad downhill, but we went to sleep, and then I remember just thinking the truck was moving.
Oh, yeah.
And, like, my heart starts pounding, you know, and I, like, rip open come awake and rip open the sleeper, and I'm like, oh, no, we're not moving. Okay. I almost had a heart attack, and I look back at Aaron's sound asleep. I'm like, oh, good thing you didn't see me. I felt so embarrassed.
I know a couple guys that still to this day refuse to set their parking brakes when they sleep.
Really?
Oh, wow.
You know, I won't set the trailer, but I'll always set the tractor. But, you know, the old days, you set those doggone tractor brakes, you might not never get them back. You know, that little wake up and that little stop sign comes down in the window, you know, and those guys taught these guys and then taught those guys that it's bad to set your your tractor brakes. It's not anymore.
Yeah.
You know, there's not a level spot out there. There's not a one level spot out there where I will just sit there and feel okay about not setting my tractor brakes.
Yeah, I've seen guys, their wheels, steering cranked all the way around so they can't roll,
or in case they do roll, they roll into the ditch.
Yeah, or they got a portable underneath the tire, or
just set the damn brakes.
oh man,
there's enough torque when you push in, and they did freeze up. You kick your lockers, and there's enough juice in there that you'll knock them free. You know?
Man, that reminds me. I had a load of cement or something like that for Dalwell back then. It's Slumber's now, but I remember I pulled up there and I started doing my paperwork, and I don't remember what I sat there and did my paperwork, and I don't remember what I was doing. I sat there for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I walked inside to go check into the bulk plant and see what tank to go into, and I come back out, and somebody had stole my truck. My truck was gone. I'm like, what is going on here? It's like, who's messing with me? I looked out to the left, and the thing had rolled away.
Man.
I never set the brakes when I stopped.
Oh, damn.
It rolled the other end of the parking lot, and I'm out there running around, and I'm looking to see who caught me, you know, screwing up. But it's like, after that, man, I was always really good about making sure I'd check 2 or 3 times, make sure my brakes are set.
Absolutely. I couldn't sleep. Even knowing I didn't sleep well that one time. Yeah. I couldn't sleep right. I'd nervous as a cat in a rocking chair factory or something.
Yeah. I don't know. It's funny how the memories stick with you like that.
Yeah.
I had another one sleeping at Adigan camp too the one time, and it's weird sleeping at Adigan camp. It feels like you're sleeping in the road.
Yeah, right now, yep.
I remember waking up, and it's like I jumped up in the seat, and I've heard a dad talking. He was on top of a pass in Colorado or something at one time when he first started driving, but you start panicking. It's like, why am I parked in the road, you know? And it's like, oh, I'm at Adigan camp here, but...
I could see that. Yeah, I don't sleep much at Adigan, and if I do, I try to use that very first one. I think that's the most level one, and it feels less right on the road.
Yeah, Yeah, when I first started driving, it seemed like I just try to get over the pass. You're leaving at 5, 6 o'clock at night, and
That's always the goal. Just get over the pass.
Just get over the pass. Now with phone service and all that, you don't have phone service, so people don't sleep there anymore.
Get to 261.
That's amazing how the phone service has changed. Where
Changed
sleeps.
everything. Yeah, nobody's ever at Tulick anymore. No one's ever at 117. They're always at Slow Mountain Camp or at Chandler.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one, or oil spill. You can get it at oil spill too.
Yeah.
But you're right on the road.
Yeah, we used to always go back over the pass, going south, and go down to 224, that gravel pit, and I don't even know if they were plowing it this winter, or they might have just started.
They started plowing it again because they're about to start getting salt and stuff.
Yeah.
They stick a lot of that in there.
But man, that was a nice place to sleep down there, get off the road, and
It's never bothered me to sleep right on the road.
huh.
I can if I'm tired, I can sleep. The only thing I don't like sleeping in the yard up in Prudhoe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the backup alarms bother the shit out of me. But I can hear Jake brakes and trucks go by me all day. The one guy backs up and hits a trailer behind me here, while I'm sleeping. Wake right up. Doggone it. That's a busy yard at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sleep at 8 o'clock.
I sleep there quite a bit, but I think the other part, sleeping on the road, all these trucks driving by, it's like you're always, who's driving by? Who? I want to go trucking with him, but it was.
Doesn't bother me none. I'm by myself 99.9% of the time.
Yeah.
So do you ever think you'll get out of the truck here soon and just go back to running equipment? I've
tried. I did 9.5 days in Prudhoe here 3 years ago.
Oh, I remember that.
That was a rough 9.5 days.
Just working in the yard up there.
Yeah, I was going to go up there and hostle. Yeah, I lasted 9.5 days. I said, well, I know what I don't want to be when I grow up. No, I've tried. There's we're at the top of our game. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't even graduate high school. There is nothing else out there in the world that will treat me the way it does. I pretty much make my own schedule.
Yeah.
Show up when I want. I got to the office today after a pretty hellacious trip on the way south, and I had paperwork in my box. Looked over at the dispatcher and just shook my head. He goes, I'll call you Thursday. So, I'll go Friday, but I'll call you Thursday. Okay. And the pay, I'll never make any more money anyway. There's a number out there that'll get me out of a truck, but ain't nobody going to pay for it.
Yeah.
I don't, especially to go sit in an office somewhere and be bored all day long and deal with truck drivers. You couldn't pay me enough to be a dispatcher and deal with a bunch of me's. No. And I think I'm pretty easy to deal with. Just put paperwork. I don't care what it is, just as long as there's paperwork in the box.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. They all got to go. There's good loads. There's bad loads. They're all just loads.
Yeah.
Take the good with the bad.
Yeah, it's amazing what people will bitch about a little bit here and there, though. As easy as these things have gotten around here, especially around Alaska West. We just talked about it earlier. This world has changed over here. These ELDs are the best thing that ever happened to us.
Yeah.
We got a whole new company that exists just so I can drop a tanker in Dead Horse now and not have to take it out to, CD6. I think they only had 3. They had 1, 2, and 3 the last time I was out there. And now they got 3, 4, and 5, or 4, 5, and 6, and the whole Willow project. And
so you've done that before. We had to run all the way out somewhere.
Oh yeah. I lived in Capark. I lived there, and I lived in Capark until Alpine season.
Yeah.
And then I did 2 Alpines and a Capark.
That's a whole nother day's worth of work.
It is. Like I say, if they're there with hose in hand, and it's a beautiful day and everything goes right, you're at a minimum of 8 hours from Dead Horse out there to Dead Horse. And that's even to Alpine. Capark is the biggest, I think it's, and I won't swear to it, but I think it's the biggest oil field in America.
Oh, wow.
I think. I won't swear to it, but I've heard that somewhere. And there's a lot of land out there. And there's a lot of really insignificant oil sites or whatever that need some load of chemical. And so you meet this guy at the main camp there, and you might be another 3 hours driving to it. And then you got to pump off, and then he's got to go somewhere else. So hopefully you remember how to get back.
Yeah.
Which is confusing as shit, because once you do feel like you realize where you're going out there, and you're using certain landmarks, the big old orange building on the left, I need to turn right here. Next week, that building's gone. That entire building, that entire camp, they just moved and now you're lost.
Or they tell you go out there and turn by the rig and come in here. Well, that rig can move in 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah, that rig was there last week. It ain't there this week.
Yeah, it's like a whole city just moved.
Yeah. Hopefully you're not behind it.
Yeah, I've done that.
Have you ever been stuck out there in a blow, either out on the field or between 62 miles?
Of course. Absolutely.
Well, what's the longest it's taken you to get to from 62 mile into Prudhoe before?
Oh, I tell you what, from Prudhoe to 62 mile, the year the road washed out. You remember that year? I think that was the worst year for blows, period.
Oh, man.
And then they had that big old berm out there for however long. That year I was in the green truck, and I had a good buddy of mine with me, or I had just met him. He'd come up to drive, and the whole year he's like, "Are we in a blow yet? Are we in a blow yet?" No, Jeff, we're not in a blow. It's just windy. It's just windy. Everybody wants to do it. You want to go see what a real blow's like. And coming out, we went in, we delivered, and then coming out, I remember I was in. It was kind of a struggle to get in, but on the way out, I texted on Facebook, "Once more time into the breach." Little did I know, 4 hours later, I was still able to text.
Oh, man.
Still trying to get into the breach, and the holes and the water, and then we finally got out there. I bet you it was 9.5 hours to get out to 62 mile. That particular time, I looked at Jeff, and I said, "Jeff, that's a blow. You've been in it now."
And that's when the road was flooded too.
Oh yeah,
so it was all
iced
up and
ice and then running water and 32-degree water. I bet you we had 8.5, 9 inches of ice on our bumpers. There was guys getting stuck in the ice, because then the whole line had stopped. Hope to gosh you were on a high level, because the poor bastard that was down on the low level, he wasn't moving anymore.
Oh, man.
He was froze up, and the only one way to get in there was somebody to go in there and yard him out. And I'm not dropping down. I'm not getting into that. We're sleeping here, because I'm not putting my water boots on and getting in that 32 and then slip or something like that. Oh,
and then the visibility is what, maybe 10 feet, 15 feet or something.
If sometimes.
And the delineators were probably almost buried, right?
We didn't have the delineators we have now.
Okay.
We had
the road was actually sitting right on the
still
toner?
Lower.
Yeah. Okay.
It was still low, and what were the delineators back then? What were they every 30 feet on either side?
I don't think they were that close. I always thought they were about
60 feet. I don't know. Maybe they are now.
I always figured they were 100 foot apart on one side, so you had 50 foot from.
That sounds about right.
That was a guess, but I actually just found all my pictures. I've been going through all my pictures here lately, and I was. I never trucked when there wasn't any delineators. Oh.
So I count myself pretty lucky, but looking at it now, I'm like, wow, how did we do it then? When they were 100 feet, I remember bouncing from one to the other across the road all the way down. 50 feet, there's one. 50 feet, there's one. All the way down into Prudhoe.
That gets scary when you start doing that, because eventually you miss one and you just drive right off the road. It's like
I've done that.
Yeah.
I've done it where you had to call back to somebody, hey, the yellow delineators, which side are they on? Well, they're on the right. Shit. Got one on the left.
Yeah.
I'm off the road. Somebody hurry up, pull me back. And he might be 40 feet back. He might be an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, it's intense. It can mess with your mind out there getting in that stuff.
It's horrible. I hate it. I hate him. I don't do it anymore. I've been through maybe 2 of them in the last 3 years. I'm a fair weather trucker anymore.
So do you just stay in town when that happens, or you just
I try to check the weather here in town, and then I'll call. Yeah. I know I'm dispatched, but let's give it a couple days. It's pretty goofy, and it might be a beautiful day, and the weather might be completely wrong, but sometimes I just don't risk it.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't get stuck in them, but I avoid them like the plague. I've got no problem sitting. I got sandwiches made. I got no problem sitting at 62 mile.
Until a guy actually experiences that, it kind of like it'll change.
It'll change it quick.
Yeah, because you're looking at your windows, everything's like, freezing up or whatever. There's snow forming on the locks of your doors.
I used to do it with snow coming in the doggone truck. Them old classics. You end up. I used to put my winter gear on. Those old classics, you have to start the day off in your winter gear, because you never know, the doorknob, the speaker hole, just wind coming through it.
Yeah.
And then you think you're okay, and you finally get to Prudhoe, and you go back to lay your head down in a 6-inch drift that's on your pillow because of the vent.
Oh, I remember them days. I never want a flat top again after being in those.
Oh, it's nice to stand up, isn't it? It's nice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, especially if you're a tall guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in a classic.
How tall was that? You couldn't stand up in yours in the Peterbilt, could you?
Yeah,
you could in the Peterbilt,
yeah, that one.
But you're talking about the
I've
old
always-
Alaska West trucks, right?
Yeah.
Oh, those Alaska, those old classics. You know,
Yeah.
those. Not only were they a small sleeper, they had those shelves, and everybody knows about those shelves when you wake up and you knock your head right on top of those shelves.
Waking up from one of those nightmares.
Anyway. Yeah, no, there hasn't been too many nightmares. That one was the worst one. That was definitely the worst one. I still remember that to this day. It was that bad.
So for any new people that are going to be coming up here, that say they get a load out of the States or whatever, and they're coming up here, if you could give them one piece of advice, what would you give them for advice about coming up here?
Make sure it's loaded well.
Okay.
Make sure it's loaded well. You know, the loads change in Fairbanks here. Going up in the winter, your bridge changes. You go from 42 on your drives to 38 on your trailer instead of the opposite coming up out of there. And man, that can make all the difference.
Yeah, you want that driver weight.
You want that driver weight. And there's a lot of poor guys out there right now. And they're coming up with these rig mats on step decks. And the step decks are empty on top, you know, and they're just, and you look at it and you hopefully he's made it somewhere. But you can't tell him because, you know, he doesn't have a radio or he's not talking to you. And hopefully he's got a set of 3-rail chains, at least one. You better have 2. Yeah. But there's a guy sleeping at 3 Mile, top of 3 Mile today with a set on, with one of those step decks, aluminum deck, you know, and it's just right to the top with rig mats. And he's got to be 4,000 or 5,000 pounds tail heavy.
Wow.
And it's 33, 34 degrees the entire way. And where it's not rainy, shitty, sleety snow, it's big, fat snow. I mean, I slept on the Elliott this morning because my eyes just couldn't take it. I had to pull over and take a couple hours, man. I was so tired of seeing snow. Yeah, he was sitting on top of 3 Mile, all chained up, sleeping. I was like, well, so I drop off the top of 2.5. And, well, he did okay here. And I went all the way over to 1 Mile and found right where he'd spun out. I was like, at least he has them on.
Yeah.
You know, the poor guys too. You know, they don't even know 2.5 Mile exists.
Yeah.
A couple times last year, you know, guys are chaining up 3 at a time on 1 Mile, and we're all waiting for him. And one gets to the top, and he pulls into that big old parking lot. And he starts taking off his chains. You know, whoa! It's dark. He can't see over there.
Yeah.
You know, you need to just wear them. Just wear them.
They need a sign there that says, "This is where you put your chains on. Do not take them off."
Yeah. If you're loaded this way, put them on here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're going up and it's transition time, fall time, and everything like that, when do you decide, I think I'm going to throw a set of chains? If there's a little bit of snow on the hill, will you stop at the top of that hill just before you drop into 1 Mile and throw a set, or will you try 1 Mile and see how it is?
I'd like to say that, well, it's depending. It really is. It depends on what I have on. I'm always down in game to give 1 Mile a shot, but I've been messed up on 1 Mile something fierce too.
Yeah.
You know, 1 Mile is no joke. It's no 2.5, but it's you still got to get there.
Yeah.
You just got to chest your gut. You got to know your load. You got to know you. You know, there's plenty of times I've chained up in Live and Good, and because it's snowing like hell in Live and Good, and by the time you drop down onto 1 Mile, you're on dirt. Damn it, you know. But then you got them on, and you can't. You don't know what 2 miles covered in snow. So shit, I'm glad I had them on. When you could have taken them off on 1 Mile, you know, you just never know.
So you'll run them from 1 to 8 then.
I'll run them 1 to 8. Yeah,
then take them off the
if
top.
I put them on for 1, usually I'll run at 1. You know, I'll give 1 a go. But that's also my experience level too. And I've got a good load. Yeah. I've got a tanker on. You got nothing but driver weight. I've got good tires. I work for a company that does not skimp on tires or chains. Yeah. You know, and I know I might have to struggle, but most likely I'm going to make it to 1. And if I spin anywhere on 1 Mile, I am stopping and putting them on. And if I've got them on for 2, I might as well just wear them over to 8. Sometimes I'll wear them over to 25, even with 25 being new now. You know, I can high side 25 with a 5-axle tanker now.
Wow.
It's not pretty, but I can do it. I could even do it in the pilot line in summer. That's how much that doggone thing's changed. That used to be a hill. Yeah. It used to be a corner in a hill. I tagged the guardrail on that bugger a couple times there coming south.
Sliding backwards or
no, sliding forwards.
Oh, okay.
You
spun out on the old 25 mile?
Oh, of course, yeah. Everybody has, yeah. Yeah, no, one one of my biggest foul ups was coming down 25 and not knowing where I was. I was just starting out. I knew where I was, but I didn't, and I was probably half just finishing off an argument with my ex-wife or something. And I got down and I saw the corner, and I had to have stood on it. I had to have just absolutely stood up, grabbed the steering wheel, smashed the brakes, because the truck come around instantly, and the trailer stayed straight. And I'm coming down 25 mile like this, you know, and there's no guardrail on the northbound side, and that's a big cliff. And all of a sudden in my mind, I see my kids graduating. I see my ex-wife getting we were married at the time, but I was going over. I was going over. I mean, there was no recovering. I am jackknifed coming down the road. The only thing that stopped me is I hit the guardrail. The truck jumped, and then the guardrail went in between. The bumper went in between the guardrail and steer tires. So then I started following the guardrail around, and then as it actually stopped, as it actually made the turn, the truck stopped. But now I'm in a whole new predicament that I'm sitting on the middle of 25 mile at 3 o'clock in the morning. Nobody can see me one way. Anybody comes down that hill, I've got the whole hill. It's mine, you know. And so I start walking up triangles. There's no getting a set of chains on and getting off that guardrail. Yeah. Roger Brown and Gary Healy finally, actually, I saw them coming from. I was there an hour and a half. What you doing up there? just hanging out. What do you need? So I need one of you to throw on a set of chains, come over here and pop me off this guardrail. Can we do it? I think we can. But I'll let you come up here and figure it out see if we can. But you're not getting by me.
That one has scared a lot of people coming down that hill. You get to cruising along, and
that's a corner. Well, it's not so much a corner. It's still a corner.
It's still a corner.
It's still pretty nasty. I mean, you know, I like how they put the guardrail on the northbound side now, but they put it so far down. And it took me 1 or 2 times of actually coming down the corner of feeling where, if something bad happened, where I would end up. And I was like, oh, that's why they put it way down there.
Yeah. It's funny how many stories I've heard of people being spun out there and guys racing home and having to go down through the ditch to get around everybody on the hill. And it's like, I always wondered how true they were, but it's like there was a lot of crazy stuff happened back in the day.
Well, you remember, so like I said, the 15 years I've been out there, I've seen it change 3 times. Do you remember what 25 used to look like?
Well, yeah, it used
Bugger was sharp and thin.
Yeah.
And then they widened it out and they made it a little less, and you could park 2 of us up there side by side. And so there was always, you know, well, we can both go up there and spin out. And now, shoot, you can get 4 of us up there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice.
You've done it?
Yeah, that's the first place I spun out.
Oh, really?
25 mile, but that's
Sorry, the computer's dying here and the charger's not making contact. These Apple computers are fantastic. So, I don't know when this battery's going to die.
Oh.
But we can wrap this up, and
whatever's good for you guys.
You want to come on back sometime?
Yeah, I'm always around. Unless I'm on the road, you know how it is.
Alrighty, well, yeah. Thanks for coming on, Bret.
You bet. Thank you guys for having me. This is cool. You guys, I'm real happy seeing this. This is neat. I've been watching every one of them at home. Matter of fact, Tim the other day, you know, he texts me up and he says, have you seen this? You know, sharing podcasts back and forth, you know, things to listen to up on the road. And I'm sitting on the couch and I said, no, I haven't seen that one yet, but I'm sitting here watching you right now. He goes, oh man. Yeah, this is neat. Have we figured out how far is it getting? Is anybody seeing any different views?
A little bit. I mean, we're on Spotify now, and that's the cool thing is you can be driving up there, listening to it up there now on Spotify, which if you get a chance, listen to Lonnie's when he's talking about dropping into S-Corp.
Oh, yeah, I watched his whole...
That's pretty cool, actually listening to him talk up there while you're driving.
Oh, as a little play-by-play, little mental map.
But no, Aaron's got a big list of people. It's just... A lot of guys don't want to come on because they're scared to talk into the mic or be on camera, which that's fine. Some of these guys, that's why they're probably truck driving, because they don't want to be seen. They don't want to talk to anybody.
We all got cameras in the trucks now. you're getting seen all day anyway.
Yeah, so anybody that's been up there for a while, we're trying to talk to some older guys that have been there that. You know, the reason why some rules and etiquette, haul road etiquette is there is because, the experiences that those guys had.
It's a subject with me, that etiquette.
And so Well,
it's a 2-lane road.
Yeah, it's a 2-lane road, and it used to be narrower.
Oh yeah,
It used to be a lot narrower back in the day. So
I don't know. Are your battery about to die?
it will go until it dies, but
Not to. My whole take on it is there are places where there's etiquette that I will give you the right of way. You tell me you're northbound and how it automatically have the right of way. We can talk.
yeah,
It's not going to be pretty, but we can talk. But when it all comes down to it, and bumpers are hit, tickets are being given out, hope to gosh no one ever got hurt, but you're standing in court. There's not a judge in this world that's going to care that you called it out. It's not yours.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's a 2-lane road, and those are the rules that actually. If everybody drove just like a courteous 2-lane road, everybody will be fine.
yeah,
Traffic will move. Everybody will be fine. I mean, there's spots, I mean, if I'm going to beat you down if I'm dropping off the Canooty or dropping off Old Man, and I know I'm going to beat you to Canooty, and I see you coming, I'm going to take it.
yeah,
But if you're going to beat me to Canooty, I'll step up to the top, or I'll give you Canooty. I don't want to be at the bridge right along with you if I don't have to be.
yeah.
We can still meet there, but I don't want to. But you didn't have the right of way, though.
Exactly.
And that's up to both people to either get on the radio and communicate, or just instinctively know.
Yeah, and if you don't know who it is, you're like, is this guy gonna run for it, or can I run for it?
Sure.
And I guess that's where talking to him on the CB, communicating, be like, hey, you want me to come through here, or yada, whatever.
But even if neither of you do, when you hit the Canooty and you're gonna meet, and you know it doesn't have to be at 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't have to be at 50.
That's true.
There's not a bridge out there that I don't go ahead and do 30 over.
Yeah.
Neuterwick, I don't ever call out Neuterwick. I just do 30 miles an hour over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be doing 50 when I hit those 2 corners after it anyway.
Exactly. Because that's
50's
gotten a
too
lot of
fast.
guys, those corners back over there.
Corners, yeah.
Yeah.
And they never move. I don't know why people don't know they're there. They're there every trip. That bridge hasn't moved in the 40 years that the road's been open.
Yeah.
Hasn't in the 15 I've been up there anyway.
I didn't even know what the name of that was for the first 10 years. It's like I didn't even. And it was funny, kind of back, maybe not even when I started, but there was a lot of 1-lane bridges,
Sure.
in the 80s and stuff like that. And you had to just ease up there and make sure you had the bridge to yourself.
Right.
So, but it's funny running for those hills. If a guy can just pause for a couple seconds, one guy pause. It don't take just a couple seconds for somebody just to pause and let one guy have it, whoever's, and just alternate like that. No, I feel the same way, but there's a lot of that stuff we kind of learned. I learned a lot of that stuff as a kid with my dad, which I don't know. You probably didn't spend enough time with your dad to learn that, but
I only got the one trip with him up there.
But I mean, you probably heard about that kind of stuff at the dinner table.
Oh yeah. Well, even coming up, when I was coming up, everybody said, what we call it, that whole golden age of communication. I don't think it ever existed. I think it's the same as it is now. Some people do, some people don't, and just because you do, that doesn't mean you own the hill.
Yeah.
You call out oh shit corner, and you come ripping around there in my lane. Man, and you hit me, and I'm in my lane. Well, it's your fault.
Well, it's funny too. There was that big herd of caribou there at one point, and they were from Baker's all the way to the pass. And I come around that corner one time, and there was
caribou didn't call out.
No, they didn't. And I don't know how I made it through. There's probably about 50 of them right there in the corner.
You died.
Sorry about that.